This is where the story plays, a world on which we seldom gaze, a page from the book of yesterdays, birds and beasts and wind and water.
Uptown is an old Memphis neighborhood, situated where the Wolf and Mississippi rivers converge. An in-between place, located just north of downtown, between the mighty oak canopy of Midtown, the wild river islands that lie between Tennessee and Arkansas, and the densely wooded spaces beyond. It's a friendly place, Uptown. People sit on their porches, and everybody seems to know everybody else. It's a happy place, too. Until the sun goes down, that is. That's when you can hear the sad voice of Mamie Littlefoot, singing her lonesome ballad and crying goodnight.
Listen to my lonely cry. Where he searches, where he goes, this of course nobody knows. But once you've heard his lonely cry, you can guess the reason why.
Oh, I didn't write that song. That song's the theme to Legend of Boggy Creek by Charles B. Pierce, and he lives in Texarkana, Arkansas, and it's a movie about a gentle, lonely monster that lives in the swamps, and all these hateful people that shoot him, and he knocks one of them clean off the toilet. I'm not sure anyone deserves that, really, but... Oh, I can see Arkansas from my porch. It's right over there. There's Arkansas. There's Arkansas. So Charles B. Pierce sold advertising in the 1970s, and he was like, I'm a successful advertising salesman, but I'm not happy because I want to give up all this and make a documentary about the folk monster because he's a real monster and someone should make a movie about him. So he'd go up to all these people he knew from selling advertising and be like, I want to make this off-the-hook monster movie about a misunderstood Sasquatch that people shoot at. And that's why you should totally give me $100,000. And his friends, well, these people he sold ads to would be like, what? What the what? No, you're like Mr. Sell Me a Billboard guy. You're not Mr. Make me a groundbreaking monster movie guy. I'm not going to give you $100,000, but I'll totally loan you $100,000. And that's how Charles B. Pierce made the most important gentle Sasquatch movie, with somebody else's money. I love it, and I don't want the Sasquatch to be lonely anymore.
Mamie has been planning a trip to Folk, Arkansas to try and meet the monster. She also wants to meet her longtime pen pal and the breakout star of the Legend of Boggy Creek, Herb Jones, a dirty old hermit who's lived alone for 20 years and who once shot half his foot off in a tragic boating accident. Because Jones doesn't have a mailing address back in the Sulphur River bottoms, letters are delivered by hand by a young man named Travis Crabtree.
Hey, Travis Crabtree, wait a minute for me. Let's go back in the bottom, back where the fish are biting, where all the world's inviting, and nobody sees the flowers bloom but me.
Littlefoot's letters were almost always the same, inquiring about Jones's health and asking whether or not he needed more tobacco. And she would ask Jones whether or not he'd heard anything new about the monster. Jones always gave the same answer.
People always ask me why I stay down here. I tell them I stay because I like it better here than I would anywhere else. Looks like they could figure that out for themselves. Another thing, people always ask me, have I seen the folk monster? Let me tell you something. There ain't no such thing. I've been living here in these bottoms for better than 20 years. I ain't never seen or heard no monster.
Undeterred by Jones' negative reports, Mamie Littlefoot put money back to hire Arkansas's best cryptozoologist, noted explorer and adventurer, Idaho Cooper.
Look, I don't want to take this poor woman's money, but if she insists on throwing it at me, I will take it.
Cooper, who investigated missing livestock in and around the Boggy Creek Basin in the early 1970s, doesn't think the Falk monster exists. Or rather, he thinks it's unlikely that the same lonely monster who haunted the area decades ago is still haunting it today.
Now, the first recorded sighting of the Falk monster was in 1908. That's 64 years before the Legend of Boggy Creek. That's more than 107 years since the first sighting, though. It's common sense to believe that no single humanoid creature, especially one that's been shot as many times as that, could be active in the wild for such a time as this one. Now, if there was a Mrs. Falk monster, or maybe even a whole more community of monsters, then that would be an entirely different story. We might be dealing with generations of creatures, but there is no evidence of that.
Cooper thinks the beast of Boggy Creek was most likely a dislocated skunk ape, one of the foul-smelling wild men of Florida that had gotten lost and followed waterways to the Ark-La-Tex region, where it eventually settled.
Don't let it get me. Don't let it get me out. 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 Well, it's Saturday night at Austin Creek. I ain't never gonna be eaten by the monster of love. Don't let it get me out.
On a sunny Sunday afternoon, Cooper and Littlefoot left Memphis and commenced the long journey to Falk, Arkansas. Along the way, they stopped to take in the beauty of the natural state and to ask residents if they knew about the Falk monster. While most folks pleaded ignorance, they eventually met Tammy Hyde-Pickle, an elderly woman with a terrifying story to tell.
Why, I wasn't more than 12 years old when I shot all my siblings dead trying to kill that monster. See, it had chased us into the house, and we all tried to get the gun at once. Everybody was thrown around. Next thing I knew, bam, bam, bam! All my sisters were shot. And that monster, that horrible murdering monster, was still trying to get into the house. Is this on backwards?
In spite of Hyde-Pickle's terrifying story, Cooper and Littlefoot continued on their way, undaunted. On the night of October 25th, they entered the woods near Boggy Creek. Only Idaho Cooper, the seasoned explorer, would make it out of the woods to tell the story.
Can't tell you what happened, really. We was in the woods some 20-odd minutes, so something hit me in the back of the head and I blacked out. Somebody must have dragged me through the woods, because when I woke up, the sun was up, and I was lying in a ditch next to my car. We was walking through the woods when I heard those sounds. Scaw! Caw-caw! And Mamie, she just took off running. I was trying to follow her, but then, bam! Something hit me in my head, out of nowhere.
The last anybody heard from Mamie Littlefoot came in a video message recorded on her phone, which was recovered on the banks of Boggy Creek.
I just want to apologize to my mom and to my dad and Mr. Idaho Cooper. It's all my fault. This was my project. I'm so scared.
Although her last recorded words were filled with fear, there are reasons to believe that Littlefoot survived the night in the woods and may have gotten everything she ever wanted. You know, sometimes I visit Boggy Creek in the place where my friend Mamie Littlefoot went missing. Standing out in this field, an icy tingle starts down my spine. It was so long ago it seems incredible that the creature is still out there. Somewhere. maybe even watching me. Of course, you may not believe that, or any of this story. You may think the whole thing is a hoax, and that's your privilege. But if you're ever out driving in our country, long about sundown, keep an eye on the dark woods as you cross the Sulphur River bottoms. You may just catch a glimpse of a huge hairy creature, and maybe even a nice young lady watching you from the shadows. Yes, they're still here, and I'm glad. I'm glad to be reminded that there's still a little bit of wilderness left. There's still mysteries that remain unsolved, and strange, unexplained music in the night.
This is where the story plays, a world on which we seldom gaze, a page from the book of yesterdays. Birds and beasts and wind and water, here beneath the bright blue sky. No man's smoke blinds the eagle's eye, and things that crawl or swim or fly, feed and breed and live and die. Hear the Sulphur River flow, rising when the storm cloud blows, and this is where the creature goes, safe within a world he knows. Perhaps he dimly wonders why there is no other such as I, to touch, to love before I die. Listen to my lonely cry. Where he searches, where he goes, this of course nobody knows. But once you've heard his lonely cry, you can guess the reason why. Whether he's a beast or a man, what drives him wandering across the land is love for others of his clan, and loneliness he cannot stand. Perhaps he dimly wonders why there is no other such as I, to touch, to love before I die, to listen to my lonely